In the year 2042, the world was no longer tethered to the physical. The digital had seeped into the very fabric of human consciousness, and the latest leap was the memory forge, a neural implant that promised to rewrite the past, not in history, books, but in the minds of those who lived it. Developed by Neurosynth, a tech giant headquartered in a gleaming spire in New San Francisco, the memory forge was marketed as the ultimate tool for self-improvement. Trauma? Edit it out. Regret? Reshape it. Joy? Amplify it. The device, a sleek chip no larger than a grain of rice, embedded itself behind the ear, interfacing directly with the brain's hippocampus to allow users to access, alter, and relive their memories as if they were immersive virtual realities. For most, it was a miracle. Therapists used it to treat PTSD, artists to fuel creativity, and corporations to train employees by implanting skills directly into their minds. But for Elias Kane, a 38-year-old data curator with a quiet life and a fractured past, the memory forge was a double-edged sword, one that would soon cut deeper than he could imagine. Elias lived in a modest apartment in the lower district, where the neon glow of Neurosynth's billboards painted the night sky. His job was unglamorous. He archived neural data for Neurosynth's cloud, ensuring the memories users uploaded were secure and accessible. It was repetitive work, but it paid for his small comforts: a vintage turntable, a shelf of pre-digital books, and the occasional bottle of synthetic whiskey. Elias was not a man of ambition, but he was haunted. His past was a gallery of losses: a sister who overdosed when he was 16, a mother who faded to dementia, and a father who walked out when Elias was too young to remember his face. The memory forge, provided free to Neurosynth employees, was his escape. He didn't edit his memories to erase pain. He used them to relive the fleeting moments of joy: his sister's laugh, his mother's voice singing an old lullaby. But the forge had limits. Memories could be tweaked, but not created from nothing. The device relied on existing neural patterns, meaning you could enhance or suppress what was already there. But you couldn't invent a past that never existed. At least, that's what the manuals claimed. Elias, however, had heard rumors in the data vaults, whispers of a hidden feature. In the forge's code, a deep edit mode that could fabricate memories so convincingly the brain would accept them as real. It was a myth, he told himself, a tech urban legend. But myths have a way of taking root. Elias's life took a sharp turn the day he met Cassandra Voss. She was a rising star at Neurosynth, a senior executive in the memory design division, known for her ruthless efficiency and a smile that could disarm or destroy. At 32, she was already tipped to become the next CEO, her name synonymous with the company's meteoric rise. Cassandra had a reputation for turning ideas into gold, but also for crushing anyone who stood in her way. Elias had seen her only in hollow meetings, her presence commanding even through a screen. So when she appeared at his cubicle one gray morning, her tailored suit stark against the drab office, he felt a jolt of unease. "Elias Kane?" Her voice was smooth like polished glass. "I need your expertise." He blinked, adjusting his glasses. "My expertise? I'm just a data curator." She leaned closer, her eyes scanning him like a predator sizing up prey. "You're the best at what you do. I've seen your metrics. You've never lost a single memory file, not one corruption. In 5 years. That's not just skill. It's obsession." Elias shifted uncomfortably. "What do you need?" Cassandra slid a holopad across his desk. It displayed a neural data file, encrypted with a security level he'd never seen. "This is a high-priority project, a client's memory archive. It's sensitive. I need you to verify its integrity and ensure it's compatible with the latest Forge update." He frowned. "Why me?" "This is above my clearance." "Because I trust you," she said, her smile tightening. "And because you're invisible. No one notices a data curator. That's why you're perfect." The job was straightforward: verify the file, run compatibility checks, and report back. But something about it felt wrong. The file's metadata was incomplete, its origin obscured. Elias hesitated, but Cassandra's presence was a pressure he couldn't resist. He agreed, and she left him with a warning. "This stays between us. No one else." That night, Elias plugged the file into his terminal, his memory forge humming, faintly behind his ear. The data was unlike anything he'd seen: dense, chaotic, a tangle of neural patterns that didn't align with standard memory structures. It wasn't just a memory, it was a patchwork, stitched together from fragments that felt artificial. Against his better judgment, he activated Deep Edit mode, a feature he'd only accessed once before, during a training session. The interface opened, revealing a hidden layer of the Forge's software, a canvas where memories could be sculpted like clay. What he saw made his blood run cold. The file contained memories of a man Elias recognized: Daniel Marrow, a former neurosynth engineer who'd vanished 2 years ago after whistleblowing about the company's data privacy violations. Daniel's memories were being rewritten, his accusations erased, replaced with fabricated scenes of loyalty to neurosynth. Someone was using the memory forge to erase a scandal, and Daniel himself. Elias's hands trembled as he disconnected. He should report this, but to whom? Neurosynth owned the city, the courts, the news. And Cassandra Voss was no ordinary executive. If she was involved, crossing her meant ruin. Over the next week, Elias couldn't shake the file from his mind. He relived his own memories in the forge, seeking solace, but the images of Daniel's tampered past kept intruding. He dug deeper, accessing restricted logs in the data vault. What he found was worse than he'd feared. Dozens of similar files, all tied to people who'd opposed neurosynth: whistleblowers, journalists, even a senator. Their memories were being rewritten, their lives reshaped to serve the company's narrative. And Cassandra's digital signature was on every file. Elias knew he was in over his head. He considered quitting, disappearing into the lower district's shadows. But then he saw her again, Cassandra, on a hollow billboard announcing the next generation of the memory forge. Her words echoed: "Control your past, control your future." The crowd cheered, but Elias saw the truth. She wasn't just selling a product. She was selling control over reality itself. He made a decision. He wouldn't run. He'd fight. Not with guns or code, but with the very technology she wielded. The memory forge could rewrite memories, but it could also preserve them. Elias began copying the tampered files, storing them in a hidden partition of his own forge implant. He'd need proof, and he'd need a plan. Cassandra had built an empire on lies, but Elias would use the truth to tear it down. The question was, could he rewrite her reality before she rewrote his? Elias Kane had never been a brave man. Courage, he thought, was for those with nothing to lose. He had his quiet life, his turntable, his memories. Fragile treasures he guarded fiercely. But the discovery of neurosynth's tampered memory files had cracked something inside him. The memory forge, a device he'd once used to cling to the past, was now a weapon in his hands. If Cassandra Voss could rewrite lives to serve her empire, Elias would rewrite her reality to expose it. The question was how to wield a tool so powerful without losing himself in the process. Elias's apartment became his war room. By day, he played the dutiful data curator, his face a mask of compliance as he shuffled through neurosynth's endless neural archives. By night, he dove into the memory forge's deep edit mode, a forbidden layer of the implant's software that allowed him to sculpt memories with surgical precision. He'd copied dozens of tampered files, memories of whistleblowers, activists, and critics, all rewritten to erase their defiance. Each file was a life undone, a truth buried. Elias stored them in a hidden partition of his own forge implant, a digital vault only he could access. But evidence wasn't enough. He needed a way to strike at Cassandra directly, to make her feel the weight of her own technology turned against her. The breakthrough came on a sleepless night, fueled by synthetic coffee and paranoia. While exploring the deep edit interface, Elias stumbled on a feature buried in the code, memory sync. It allowed two Forge users to share memories in real time, creating a shared neural experience so vivid it felt like reality. The feature was experimental, locked behind layers of encryption, but Elias's years in the data vaults had taught him how to bypass neurosynth's safeguards. Memory sync was designed for therapy or collaboration, letting users relive each other's pasts to build empathy or solve problems. But Elias saw its darker potential. If he could sync with Cassandra's mind, he could plant a memory, one so undeniable it would unravel her carefully constructed world. The idea was intoxicating, but dangerous. Memory sync required physical, proximity, and mutual consent, or at least a bypassed security protocol. Elias had no access to Cassandra, and even if he did, she'd never agree to link minds with a lowly curator. He needed a way in, and he needed allies. That's when he remembered Lena Marrow. Lena was Daniel Marrow's sister, the whistleblower whose memories Elias had first uncovered. Daniel had vanished, but Lena was still in New San Francisco, running a small repair shop in the lower district. She fixed outdated tech, holopads, neural relays, even old memory forge prototypes. Elias had met her once, years ago, at a company event where Daniel introduced her. She'd struck him as sharp, guarded, and fiercely independent. If anyone hated neurosynth as much as he did, it was her. Finding Lena wasn't easy. The lower district was a maze of neon and shadows, where surveillance drones buzzed like flies. Elias took precautions, disabling his forge's tracking module and wearing a hooded jacket to avoid facial recognition. He found her shop tucked, behind a noodle stand, its sign flickering. Marrow's Fixes. Inside, Lena was hunched over a workbench, her dark hair pulled back, tools scattered around a disassembled neural chip. She looked up, her eyes narrowing. "You're Elias," she said, not a question. "Daniel's old co-worker. What do you want?" He hesitated, then slid a data chip across the counter. "It's about your brother. I found something." Lena's face hardened, but she plugged the chip into her terminal. The screen displayed fragments of Daniel's tampered memories, his accusations against neurosynth replaced with false loyalty. Her hands shook as she scrolled through the data. "They erased him," she whispered. "They took his mind." "Not just him," Elias said. "Dozens of others. Cassandra Voss is behind it." Lena's eyes met his, burning with something between grief and rage. "What do you need from me?" Lena was more than a tinkerer. She was a genius with neural tech. She'd reverse-engineered early memory forge models, uncovering flaws neurosynth had buried. Together, they devised a plan. Lena would build a rogue sync device, a portable rig that could force a memory sync without consent, using a backdoor in the forge's firmware. Elias would provide the memory to plant, a fabricated scene so damning it would force Cassandra to confront her own crimes. The challenge was crafting a memory convincing enough to pass the forge's neural verification, which rejected anything too far from a user's existing patterns. They worked in secret, Lena's shop a fortress of scavenged tech and encrypted signals. Elias spent hours in deep edit mode, sculpting a memory from fragments of the tampered files. He chose a scene from 2 years ago, when Daniel had gone public with his accusations. In the real version, Cassandra had denied everything, her charm deflecting scrutiny. In Elias's fabricated memory, she confessed, on a private holocall, admitting to rewriting lives to protect Neurosynth's empire. He wove in details from her public speeches, her mannerisms, even her voice, pulled from archived recordings. The memory was a lie, but it felt true. Lena's role was technical, but no less critical. The rogue sync device was a tangle of wires and microchips, small enough to fit in a pocket. It exploited a flaw in the Forge's handshake protocol, allowing Elias to initiate a sync within a 5-meter range. But there was a catch. The sync would leave a trace, a digital fingerprint that could lead back to them. Worse, the process was unstable. Forcing a sync could overload the target's implant, causing neural feedback, pain, disorientation, even permanent damage. Elias hesitated, but Lena's voice was cold. She destroyed my brother. Whatever it takes, we do it. The plan required getting close to Cassandra, no easy feat. She rarely left Neurosynth's headquarters, a fortress of glass and steel guarded by drones and biometric scanners. But Elias had an advantage, his invisibility. As a data curator, he had access to the building's lower levels, where servers hummed with the weight of 1,000,000 minds. Cassandra was hosting a gala to unveil the Memory Forge's next update, a public event attended by investors, politicians, and tech elites. Elias could slip in as part of the maintenance crew, his presence unremarkable. The night of the gala, the headquarters glowed like a beacon. Elias wore a technician's uniform, the rogue sync device hidden in his pocket. Lena monitored from her shop, linked to his forge through an encrypted channel. "Don't hesitate," she warned. "You get one shot." Inside, the gala was a spectacle of wealth, hollow displays projecting memories of Neurosynth's triumphs, waiters serving lab-grown caviar, and Cassandra at the center, radiant in a silver dress. Elias kept his head down, moving through the crowd with a tray of tools. His heart pounded as he neared her, the sync device warming in his pocket. 5 meters. 4, 3. He activated the device and his forge hummed, linking to Cassandra's implant. The sync hit like a jolt. Elias's vision blurred, his mind flooding with fragments of Cassandra's memories. Boardrooms, private jets, moments of ruthless calculation. He pushed through, uploading the fabricated confession. For a moment, it worked. Cassandra froze, mid-speech, her eyes glazing over as the memory took hold. The crowd murmured, confused. Then it went wrong. Cassandra's implant rejected the memory, its verification algorithms detecting the forgery. A failsafe triggered, and Elias felt a spike of pain in his own forge, feedback from the failed sync. Cassandra's head snapped toward him, her expression a mix of shock and recognition. "You!" she hissed, her voice low enough that only he could hear. "What did you try to do?" Security drones hummed to life, their red eyes locking onto Elias. He bolted, the crowd parting in chaos. Lena's voice crackled in his ear. "Get out now! They're tracking your implant!" Elias tore through the service corridors, his mind racing. The plan had failed, but he wasn't done. Cassandra knew he was a threat now, and she'd come for him. But he had the tampered files, the truth she'd buried. And he had Lena, whose grief was a fire that matched his own. As he vanished into the lower district's shadows, Elias realized the memory forge wasn't just a weapon, it was a mirror. To destroy Cassandra, he'd have to become like her, bending reality to his will. The cost was high, but he was ready to pay it. Elias Kane ran through the neon-lit veins of the lower district, the hum of Neurosynth's drones fading behind him. The failed memory sync at the gala had exposed him, marking him as a threat to Cassandra Voss and her empire. His forge implant burned behind his ear, a lingering ache from the neural feedback. In his pocket, Lena's rogue sync device was a dead weight, a reminder of their miscalculation. But Elias wasn't finished. He had the tampered memory files, proof of Neurosynth's crimes, and Lena's unrelenting drive to see Cassandra fall. The question was no longer whether he could fight back, but how far he was willing to go. Lena's shop was a fortress of flickering screens and salvaged tech, its air thick with the tang of solder. She was waiting when Elias stumbled in, her eyes sharp with worry. "You're lucky you're not in a neurosynth cell," she said, tossing him a cooling pad for his implant. "What happened?" Elias recounted the gala, the sync's failure, Cassandra's recognition, the drones. Lena's face darkened as she listened, her fingers tracing the rogue sync device on her workbench. "Her implant's security is tighter than we thought," she said. "The verification algorithms caught your forgery. We need something bigger, something she can't reject." Elias hesitated. "Bigger how?" Lena turned to her terminal, pulling up a schematic of the Memory Forge's firmware. "There's a feature I found in the prototype models. They called it Echo Cascade. It's a broadcast protocol, lets one user's memory spread to others like a virus. It was meant for group therapy, syncing emotional states across patients. But Neurosynth scrapped it. Too unstable. It could overwhelm implants, fry neural pathways." Elias felt a chill. "You're saying we can force a memory into her mind and others?" "Exactly," Lena said, her voice steady but cold. "We hit her with the tampered files, unedited, raw, Daniel's memories, the whistleblowers, all of them. We make her live their truths, and we broadcast it to every Forge user in range. Her own people will see what she's done." The plan was audacious, borderline suicidal. Echo Cascade wasn't just a hack, it was a psychological weapon. If it worked, Cassandra's crimes would be exposed to Neurosynth's elite, her allies, her investors, her empire. But the risks were catastrophic. The Cascade could destabilize thousands of implants, causing pain, disorientation, even brain damage. And it would leave a trail straight back to Elias and Lena. Elias thought of his sister's laugh, his mother's lullaby, memories he'd preserved in his forge. He thought of Daniel, erased to protect a lie. "Do it," he said. The next 48 hours were a blur of preparation. Lena modified the rogue sync device, rigging it to trigger an echo cascade by exploiting a flaw in Neurosynth's neural network. The device needed a signal booster to reach multiple users, which meant infiltrating the headquarters server room, a suicide mission under normal circumstances. But Elias had an edge. His curator access still hadn't been revoked. Cassandra, in her arrogance, hadn't seen him as enough of a threat to lock him out. They chose their moment, a late-night maintenance window when the server room would be lightly guarded. Elias slipped into the headquarters through a service tunnel, his heart pounding as he bypassed biometric scanners with a stolen admin key Lena had forged. The server room was a cathedral of humming machines, their lights pulsing like a heartbeat. He plugged the sync device into a central node, its signal linking to the neural network that connected every forge in the city. Back at the shop, Lena monitored the feed, her voice crackling through Elias's earpiece. "You're in. Upload the files and trigger the cascade." "Hurry!" Elias hesitated, his finger hovering over the activation command. The tampered files, Daniel's accusations, the whistleblower's truths, were loaded, unedited, raw. He'd added one more. A memory of his own. From the night his sister died, her face pale under the streetlights, her voice begging him to save her. It was his truth, his pain, and he wanted Cassandra to feel it. He pressed the button. The cascade hit like a tidal wave. Elias's vision blurred as his forge overloaded, fragments of the uploaded memories flooding his mind. Daniel's voice, a senator's erased testimony, his sister's final breath. Across the city, thousands of forge users staggered, their implants hijacked by the broadcast. In Neurosynth's boardroom, where Cassandra was meeting with investors, the effect was immediate. Her eyes widened, her hands clutching her head as the memories poured in. The room erupted in chaos, executives and elites collapsing under the weight of truths they weren't meant to see. But something went wrong. The cascade didn't stop. It spread beyond the headquarters, jumping from implant to implant, a chain. Reaction Lena hadn't predicted. Social media lit up with reports, people screaming in the streets, reliving traumas not their own. Elias's own forge burned, his mind trapped in a loop of his sister's death. He tore the sync device from the server, but the damage was done. Lena's voice was frantic. "Elias, it's out of control. The network's amplifying the signal. We need to shut it down." Elias fled the headquarters, drones on his tail. He made it to the lower district, where Lena was waiting, her shop now a target. Neurosynth's security was closing in, and the city was descending into chaos as the cascade spread. They had one chance left, a kill switch in the Forge's core code, buried in Neurosynth's mainframe. It could stop the cascade, but it required physical access to the central server, a machine only Cassandra could reach. They tracked her to a private penthouse, a fortress atop Neurosynth's spire. Elias and Lena fought their way through, using Lena's tech to disable drones and hack locks. Inside, they found Cassandra, her face pale, her implant sparking from the cascade's overload. She was alone, her empire crumbling as the memories she'd buried tore through the city. "You thought you could rewrite me?" she spat, her voice trembling. "You're nothing, a curator, a ghost." Elias held the rogue sync device, its battery nearly drained. "You rewrote lives. I'm just giving them back." Lena activated the kill switch, uploading it through, a forced sync with Cassandra's implant. The cascade stopped, the network falling silent. But the cost was clear. Thousands had been affected, their minds scarred by the truths Elias had unleashed. Cassandra collapsed, her implant fried, her mind trapped in a loop of the memories she'd tried to erase. Elias and Lena vanished into the lower district, their faces now on every Neurosynth blacklist. The tampered files were public, the truth exposed, but the city was a wound that wouldn't heal. Elias's own forge was damaged, his memories of his sister flickering, corrupted by the cascade. He'd won, but at a price he couldn't yet fathom. In the end, the memory forge hadn't just been a weapon. It had been a mirror, reflecting the fragility of truth and the cost of bending it. Elias had rewritten Cassandra's reality, but he'd also rewritten his own. And as he and Lena disappeared into the neon night, he wondered if he'd ever find a memory he could trust again.